Hello, you're back with a single malt review as we try the second of our two cask strength Paul John Indian single malts.
Yes, indeed. It's going to have to really pull out all the stops to beat that first one. That one was just so good. But I'm willing to be surprised. To be blown away.
The classic select cask. It's one of our highest scorers when it comes to Indian whiskey. Today it is the Peated Select Cask. Very much a stablemate. Again, we have exclusively bourbon cask matured whiskey. No age statement, bottled at 55.5% ABV. Fractionally stronger than the classic.
And very similar wood involved, we're assuming. But the barley for this one coming over from Islay, maybe?
No, I don't believe so.
So it's a home house
Paul
peated.
John do import peat from Islay.
And
for the edited, they do use a combination of Scottish peated barley and their own. However, if I just can demonstrate it. However, they do also, they're seen in Paul John bold, peat their own barley using that imported peat. And I couldn't confirm one way or the other whether there is any Scottish barley involved in the peated select cask.
That's interesting. So I guess they heaved a whole bunch of Islay peat onto the boat and not the grain.
That's right. They do both, but I don't know. I believe in this case, without much to go on, I'm going to assume this is all Indian barley, but peated with the Scottish peat.
Well,
it is certainly Paul John's peated whiskey, which means there's possibly some traces of Scottish barley in there too, but hard to say.
So,
anyway, all matured in Goa in bourbon casks.
It's definitely peated. Can confirm peat.
I think the impression I'm getting is this is quite likely Indian barley, all Indian barley peated with the Scottish peat, and none of the
interesting
peated malt.
It's not. It's not massively. It's not hugely peated. This is not a. We're not nosing a Lefroy here.
It's got a bit of the Caolila coal smoke to it.
Yeah.
Caolila also very greasy and oily, but it has that smoky quality, which I'm getting here too, but coaly quality.
You know, this is reminding me of all the things. It's reminding me of the Loch Lomond 12-year-old. There is a aniseedy, licoricey, Irish mossy herbal character that is, which is completely separate from the peat. The peat smells more or less like Islay peat, but
the nosing notes here do speak of light peat, sweet and earthy fragrances, and mellow resonances of spice. So far, so reasonably accurate for.
Goodness, we're attracting some bloody fruit flies.
Yes, it's not even spring here in New Zealand, but it's warm enough and bright enough.
Bloody flies think it is.
Yeah.
That's right, hopefully they all die in a frost shortly.
Anyway. So, it's not as bombastically peaty as you'd expect from a cask strength peated whiskey.
No, not bombastic on terms of the sheer alcohol power either. Just like the other one, if anything, this is even more gentle on the nose. It's not like I'm getting all the way in on this one, and it's not burning the nose. So yeah, it is quite a 55% though it may be. It still does you fairly gentle on the nose. Almost put water in habitually for a cask strength, but no, we should taste it full strength.
Oh, that has a crisp, coaly minerality to it. That is earthy, it's soily,
there's a lot going on at once in there.
Fertile.
That's going to be tricky to tease apart. That is, though, would you concur, or is it just me? There's a lot more fire on that one.
I'm getting all the smoke, certainly the peat, the actual wood and coal smoke, but it doesn't have more of an alcohol burn. It has I think that fractionally higher ABV, but compared to the classic select cask, it is no more pugnacious.
Because I'm getting distinctly more burn from the alcohol here. You know that sort of, you feel your face flush and your eyebrows begin to just sweat a little when you get a mouthful of something.
It's perhaps a little sharper on the back of the throat. It's got more heft on the way down.
That's quite interesting, and it's still, for whatever reason, reminding me of Loch Lomond, but. Goodness knows why that might be.
On the tongue, the tasting notes suggest we'd be looking for what we got. various crisp sugars, and excellent spice, and hickory and Dominican style cocoa.
I'm not
And a rich
particularly
smoke.
fluent on Dominican style cocoa, but yeah, hickory. There is a little bit of that's I guess barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
Is the most base
There's
definition of hickory.
There's some bit of dark chocolate, a bit of very well roasted coffee beans.
Yeah, there is quite a lot of
It is a
char on here.
It
Even
is
a little bit
a
of ash.
resoundingly savoury whiskey, just with some sweet glaze lightly brushed over top of it.
I think for me anyway, there's too much at once here.
Right.
The palate's moving. It's too compressed. I think I will try and expand it a wee bit with some water.
I'm going to top up my glass very slightly before adding water because this was a small pour to begin with, and a lot of it is gone. I want to be able to appreciate this in full. There we go. There we go. 50ml sample bottle goes quite a long way.
It does when it's this strong.
Yes. And as it turns out, as luck would have it, this sample box of the 5 different Paul Johns, in terms of dollars per mil of whiskey, this is at least as good value as buying the full-size bottles. If you were to buy 4 of these packets, you'd have a full litre of the whiskey, and it would cost you the same as buying a litre of full-sized bottles.
You'd be making money on the glassware.
Yeah, yes, it is an elegantly presented and well-rounded sampling tray, and yeah, just very good value for money, for us at least. A little more water, I believe. Want to do this right and do it justice.
These are coded Feb 19. So I think that's probably their bottling date.
Yeah, very recent editions.
That makes them pretty up to spec in terms of representing the current thing. So you can take that one to the bank. It's often a problem when we end up with minis. We don't know just how long they have been on the shelf continuing.
Yeah, how long
whether
they in the market.
Whether they really represent the current batch, but these ones definitely do.
Yeah.
These ones only went into the bottle earlier last year, so these ones should be the cutting edge of Paul John's output. Interesting, actually. It normally takes a very long time to filter down here to New Zealand, but no, these ones must have been quite proactively brought in.
Adding water has softened that smoke. It's gone from coal back to wood predominantly. We shifted from the steam locomotive to the barbecue. And has brought out with some caramelised sugars. Thinking of, a barbecue with a sweet glaze that's caramelised slightly in that smoky wood fire.
I'm just trying to tantalise a cat up onto the table here, but Campbell is playing hard to get. I think adding water has, to use a visual analogy, without water the peated was more or less out on its own. Adding water has brought it a lot nearer to the flavours we were tasting in the regular non-peated cask. There's a lot more of this tropical fruit. It's
permitting a lot more of the sweetness to creep through. Because the peat was not overwhelming before, but it was abundant enough that it was slightly smothering everything else that was going on.
It's maybe minus the... No, it's not even minus the honeycomb. That honeycomb is coming back in with the addition of water.
I'm struggling to see it. I would
taste it. It is a lot. There's still a hell of a lot more going on, and there was a lot going on in the regular cask stream. This one almost is beginning to suffer from too much of a good thing. This one has so many of its original underlying tropical fruity flavours. In addition to the peat, it's difficult to keep up with.
Royal Rumble going on as they all vie for supremacy on your palate.
I think if one was content to just sort of sit back and let it wash across the tongue and go with it, that wouldn't be a problem. It's only because we're trying to cotton onto the particular flavours, nail them down. It's makes it a bit more of an exercise for something with just such a clamorous room of flavours going on. So I think you're definitely... I mean, it doesn't have to be said that you're gaining the peat, but in terms of who that's for and whether it improves the whiskey, for someone looking for peat, yes, definitely does. For someone looking for a more focused, more cohesive sort of group of flavours, I think the non-peated is probably the better bet, because that one, pretty clamorous on its own in terms of just a whole jungle full of tropical fruits and fruity freshness, sweet honey, all sorts of things going on. Adding that layer of peat to it kind of collapses the roof on it in terms of being able to approach it analytically. It's a very, very hard whiskey to approach scientifically, I suppose. But it's, as a more is more, that definitely takes it. It really just depends on what you're looking for in a whiskey.
And it is no less drinkable at the full 55% ABV.
So I think scores for me in this one, again, difficult to score consistently. I think the presence of peat in this one is somewhat layered on top of the previous whiskey, and for my palate it ends up being just a little bit flew fly on my face, a little bit too much to sort of really button down and focus on, such that I think I prefer the regular, the unpeated, a little bit more than this one. This one goes down to an 86 for me, not because of anything it really did wrong, it's just it's doing lots of right things, just too much. There's too much on the plate, such that I can't. I'm stuffed, Mr. Creosote-esque, full. I can't. Doesn't matter if it's wafer thin. There is just a little too much going on, heaped on top of it, for the experience to be sort of concise. I think is the problem. It's a whiskey with too much going for it. I don't know how you would necessarily fix that problem. I'm not sure if there even is a fix for that problem. I think Indian barley and the Indian distilling and aging just is always going to give you that wonderful tropical bonanza every time, that it may just be a difficult problem to solve how to add peat to that equation and still come out with an even number. I don't know.
I think that is the issue for me too, is that the stark uniqueness of Isla peat is so at odds with all the rich vibrancy of the Indian malt spirit.
I think that's. I'm glad you agree. I'm not just some sort of Indian peat hater, but like to make like real proper contentious statements like the internet prefers. I think Indian whiskey, in terms of its present modern day style, and we're only talking about really 2 distilleries here, so it's certainly something in flux. But as this tremendously Moorish, fruity, sweet style, I'm not sure it's a style of whiskey that particularly needs to be peated. I'm not sure it meshes all that well with it.
Isla peat goes well with, say, Isla whiskey and Scotch whiskey, where you've got more subdued, more mellow.
Well, Isla whiskey is so very stark.
So it is slightly, that kind of peat is slightly alien against the sweet, honeyed fruits and spices of Indian whiskey. So this is still rates highly for me. This is an 89. It is an exceptional dram. It is a good showcase of peat, and it still carries all those Indian characters so well. You can enjoy it at its full strength. You can add water, but it's still great. But I feel, I'm not sure how you'd address it. Need to make some kind of a smoky Indian whiskey that does not use Scottish peat. Perhaps if there's some way to use I'm not a geologist.
Well, there's other ways to smoke barley.
Even if they use, say, the soil or sod from those Indian wheat fields.
Well, you can't. Soil doesn't burn.
No.
There's no available carbon. But you can smoke barley in other ways. You can smoke it over wood. You can smoke it over. You could smoke it over a blend of spices if you want. You could go real bananas with it if you wanted. You could even smoke bananas. I think there is still a place for Indian peated whiskey, but I think was I sort of in charge of experimentation, which I am resolutely not, I would be looking for more local.
So it doesn't
more local sources of smoke.
Bringing in those Scottish flavours, which are a bit too much of their own thing.
I would try some tropical woods to smoke your barley with, or maybe even blend in some spices to really, really give it an abjectly Indian flair. I just don't think the Scottish peat is really at home. I think it's just sort of sweating sticking
It's
to
too
the...
kind of somber and savoury and mineral.
It's just, I think, out of its element.
Yeah.
I think the Indian malt whiskey character is just so bouncy and moorish and expansive. It's a maximalist whiskey flavour, whereas particularly Islay distilling is very minimalist. It is a very, very constrained... There's no sort of big, rich flavours coming out of Islay whiskey. Not typically, anyway. And so that stark, pointy peat can just be sort of balanced on top of this otherwise narrow flavour profile quite concisely. In this very, very broad Indian profile, it's just kind of rolling about on the top and it can't find a home. So I think that's really the only problem. And it's not a bad problem, it's just too much of a good thing, I think. But yeah, if they're listening out there, goodness knows how far we broadcast, but I would like to see maybe some tropical fruit woods used to smoke barley, because it does tremendous things on the barbecue. Smoking meats and other things, you can get some quite good sort of tropical flavours going on there. I think that might be an experiment worth running, but anyway, that's just my 2 cents. So, that's the couple of real hard hitters from
If you
Paul
have
John
any
Lennon.
doubts about Indian whiskey being a world-class product, then Paul John Select Cask.
I think these two in particular
hopefully allay your doubts.
really, really define it. And still... rapidly, as it keeps getting jolly awards, spiralling out of the affordability category. It hasn't quite gone full Taiwan, but definitely want to get in now, rather than wait a few years for it to get any more golds.
Much like Taiwan's Kavalan Distillery, India's premier distilleries, as they gain, rightfully, in amount of international attention and focus, their price is increasing correspondingly.
It sure is.
Which undoubtedly deserved, just means it can be that much harder to get your hands on good bottles.
There just isn't enough malt whiskey in the planet is the problem. So everyone, start making it. And we'll hopefully finally supply will catch up with demand. But anyway, we're not there yet. But we may be very, very shortly. Either way, we will look at something else. We might be heading back to the Americas. We'll see. We'll see. No promises. Slajo.